Oh, there we go. Have you got Stephanie there?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, we're good.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We will reconvene our meeting. At this time, we would ask minutes of the previous meeting dated July 14th, which includes the regular minutes, the planning and drainage. Is there any business arising or errors or omissions on the minutes? Seeing none, we're looking for a motion to approve the minutes. Moved by Councillor Moyer, seconded by Councillor McClinchy. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We have to adjourn this meeting. We're looking for a motion to convene as a committee of adjustment under the Planning Act, consider a planning application. Need a motion? Councillor Keogh, Councillor Hemming, all in favor? Carried. All right, at this time, we will go to committee of adjustment. Jackie, I believe you have an introduction.
The purpose of the following hearing for the Committee of Adjustment and/or public meetings is to give the committee and council, as well as the general public, an opportunity to hear all interested persons with respect to the applications before the committee this evening. The public is advised that comments expressed in written material presented are a matter of public record available for full disclosure. If a person or public body files an appeal of a decision made this evening to the Ontario Land Tribunal without having made a written submission to the committee and/or council, the tribunal may dismiss the appeal. If you wish to be notified of a decision on any application this evening, please submit a written request to the clerk's office.
Thank you, Jackie. At this time, it's a public meeting to consider applications B07 2021 located at 3610 West Corner Drive. And it's a proposed lot addition to 3572 West Corner Drive. And I believe we have Stephanie on. So Stephanie, if you want to start.
Yes, thank you. I'm just going to share my screen. All right, so the subject lands are located on the north side of West Corner Drive, east of Charlton Road, and are 40 hectares or 98.8 acres in size. The applicants are proposing to sever a parcel of land for lot addition purposes, having an area of approximately 0.1 hectares or 0.25 acres to be merged with an abutting lot known municipally as 3572 West Corner Drive. The abutting lot would increase in area from 1.04 hectares to 2.57 acres to approximately 1.14 hectares or 2.82 acres and is intended to be used to accommodate a granny flat. The lot enlargement of 3572 West Corner Drive is being requested in order to have enough room to establish the proposed granny flat in a location that is located outside of the significant woodlands or natural heritage features. And 3572 West Corner Drive contains a single detached dwelling and is serviced by a private septic and municipal services. The lands to be severed and conveyed, which are shown in yellow on your screen, are currently vacant of any buildings and structures and appears to contain predominantly manicured or maintained grass. And the lands proposed to be retained would be approximately 39.9 hectares or 98.59 acres in size and contains a single detached dwelling, a detached garage, and agricultural land in crop production. The provincial policy statement, county official plan, and the North Middlesex official plan all permit minor lot boundary adjustments for the purposes of granting easements for conveyances and consolidations and other legal or technical matters, provided that non-viable farm parcels are not created and that agricultural activities are not adversely impacted. Staff are of the opinion that the proposed lot addition can be considered a minor lot adjustment, as it will not result in the creation of a non-viable farm parcel, and it is not anticipated to adversely impact agricultural activities. Additionally, the proposed lot addition is requested for the property owners of 3571 West Corner Drive to establish a granny flat in the form of additional housing, which is consistent with the provincial policy direction for housing diversity. Notice of the application was circulated in accordance to the requirements of the Planning Act, and staff received the following comments. The Asabo Bayfield Conservation Authority noted that the requested lands to be merged enlarges the area to allow for development to be located further away from the hazard. The authority has concluded it does not have any natural hazard or natural heritage concerns with the requested lot adjustment and temporary use zoning bylaw amendment. It is expected that a permit will be required with the proposal of a new dwelling on the lands known as 3572 West Corner Drive. Hydro 1 reviewed the documents concerning the noted plan and have no concerns or comments at this time. The North Middlesex Public Works Department did note that the property is connected to a municipal water system and that any additional connections would be subject to all applicable dues and levies at the time of the application for the water connection. It also noted that there are existing accesses for both properties and that any new proposed driveways would have to get a entrance permit. And from the drainage side of things, due to the severance, the assessment schedule for the Robinson drain is required to be reassessed under the Drainage Act at the expense of the owner in a format recommended by the drainage superintendent. And at the time of writing the subject report, no comments were received from members of the public. So it is recommended that the application be granted, subject to the conditions which council will have before them. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. This time, would the applicant have anything they'd like to add? I believe Stuart Finlater is registered for this.
Both, through your worship, both Stuart and Nicole are on the call right now, unmuted. We just can't see them on the
Okay.
television screens.
Anything you'd like to add?
It's Stuart Finlater, your worship. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak tonight. I have reviewed Stephanie's planning report on this application, and I've discussed the recommendation and the conditions that are attached to it. And my clients and myself are satisfied with those conditions, and we would simply ask council to support the application as applied for. If there are any questions, I'd be pleased to answer them.
All right, thank you, Stuart. This time, there's no written submissions on this and there's no public comments. So committee, any questions from the committee? Deputy Mayor Cornelison.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Stephanie, would this be a permanent residence ongoing? Like it's not for a temporary use, like for a period of 5 or 20 years, this would be permanent?
Through the mayor to the councillor, they have applied for a temporary use to establish the granny flat, which is the next application to be heard on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? No other questions. You have a recommendation in front of you. Moved by Councillor Moyer, seconded by Councillor Hemming. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We also have, we have to adjourn our Committee of Adjustment and go to public meeting to consider our next planning. Moved by Councillor Keough, seconded by Councillor Nickel. All in favor? Carried. So we are in public meeting, and this is notice of public meeting to consider application ZBA 12-2021 located at 3572 West Corners Drive. The owner is Nicole Page and Colin Taylor, and Stuart Finlater is once again the agent. So at this time, we would ask Stephanie to do her report.
Thank you. All right, the purpose and effect of the temporary use zoning bylaw amendment application is to allow the establishment of a 139 square meter or approximately 1,496 square foot granny flat or garden suite on an agricultural parcel of land for a period of 3 years with option for renewal. The lands contain currently a 160 square meters or about 1,700 square foot single detached dwelling and a workshop that is to be removed in place of the proposed granny flat. So the approximate location has been located in blue on the screen in front of you. And the lands are serviced by municipal water and a private septic system and have existing accesses off of West Corner Drive. The provincial policy statement, the county official plan, and the North Middlesex official plan all encourage mixed forms of housing in order to accommodate a wide range of people, such as granny flats, which are typically used to house additional family members. The North Middlesex official plan further sets out regulations required in order to facilitate a granny flat, including the amount of granny flats limited to one per property. It also requires that the buildings be accessory to the main use of the property, which generally means subordinate in size. And staff are satisfied that the existing granny flat is accessory in nature, as it is confirmed to be subordinate in ground floor area in comparison to the existing dwelling. And additionally, there is only one being proposed at this time. The North Middlesex official plan requires that development of granny flats take into consideration the exterior design of any proposed unit in terms of height, massing, scale, and layout, and the placement of the unit shall have minimal effect on light, view, and privacy of adjacent yards. And staff are of the opinion that the proposed concept provided for the dwelling unit is appropriate in terms of scale and do not anticipate any negative impacts to adjacent properties as a result of the proposed location of the granny flat. Additionally, the proposed granny flat is compatible with the surrounding land uses, as the area is characterized by agricultural lands with low density residential dwellings. The granny flat is proposed to have a new septic system and will tie into municipal water. No additional accesses will be required, as the applicants have placed the structure in a location in which can be accessed from the existing driveway off West Corner Drive. And staff do not anticipate an increase in traffic as a result of the proposal. An environmental impact assessment was not included in the recommendation from the Ausable Bayfield Conservation Authority, as the requested lands to be merged enlarges the area to allow for development to be located further from the hazard, and it is not anticipated to cause any adverse impacts to any natural heritage features. Staff have reviewed the proposed location of the granny flat and are satisfied that the zoning requirements of section 7.3.2 are being maintained, which requires an interior side yard setback of 3 meters, which the applicants will be maintaining as a result of the lot addition, I should add. And staff have also reviewed, in consultation with the chief building official, the MDS calculations provided and are satisfied that there are no livestock facilities within the area that would be impacted by the new dwelling, the location of the new dwelling. And staff are in the opinion that the temporary use zoning bylaw amendment to permit a granny flat on an agricultural parcel of land for the purpose of housing aging parents on the same property that their children reside on is generally consistent with the provincial policy statement and is in conformity to the county and North Middlesex official plans. The notice of the application was circulated in accordance to the requirements of the Planning Act, and staff received the following comments. So the Ausable Bayfield Conservation Authority requests that the land to be merged enlarges the area to allow for development to be located further from the hazard. The authority has concluded it does not have any natural hazard or natural heritage concerns with the requested lot adjustment and temporary use. It is expected that a permit will be required to establish the new dwelling. Hydro 1 have reviewed the documents concerning the plan and have no comments or concerns. And the North Middlesex chief building official has reviewed the MDS 1 calculations and has no objections to the proposal. And no other written or oral submissions have been given at the time of writing the report. So it is recommended that the application be granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Once again, we do have Nicole and Stuart, I believe, online. Would you applicant have any comments?
Again, thank you, Your Worship and Council. Yeah, once again, we reviewed the report of Stephanie and are satisfied with the recommendations and would simply ask that Council agree with that recommendation and adopt the bylaw as presented to you this evening.
Thank you, Stuart. We have no written submissions once again and no public comment. So at this time, questions from council. Any questions from council on this? We have a recommendation motion in front of us. Moved by Councillor Nicol, seconded by Councillor Teal. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you.
Sorry? Oh, okay. Thank you, Nicole. Sorry. At this time, we do have a notice of public meeting to consider application ZBA 13/2021 located at 35592 Bullock Road. And it's the renewal of the temporary use zoning for another 3-year period. Owners are Earl and Julie Bullock. And I believe they are coming on. We do have them. All right. Stephanie, if you'd like to begin with your report.
Thank you. As council will recall, temporary use zoning bylaw amendment application file number Z07-2018 sought permission to permit an agricultural related inspections and repairs, as well as farm equipment servicing, was granted for a 3-year time period set to expire on December 19th, 2021. The applicants have applied to renew the use for an additional 3-year time period in order to continue with their business operation. This permission would pertain exclusively to the fleet associated with the agricultural hauling business and would enable the applicants to have necessary inspections and repairs to their trucking fleets conducted on site. The provincial policy statement, the county official plan, and the North Middlesex official plan recognize the subject lands as being located within an agricultural area where agriculture and agriculturally related uses are permitted, with on-farm secondary businesses being also permitted, subject to evaluation criteria. And for the purposes of the analysis, the term on-farm secondary business is considered to be synonymous with on-farm diversified use, which is the term used by the province's guidelines. The criteria of a on-farm diversified use within the provincial guidelines generally require that such uses be located on a farm, be secondary to the principal agricultural use of the lands, and that they be limited in area. Staff note that the secondary business consists of an area of approximately 110 square meters or about 1,200 square feet of an existing agricultural building. Challenging to see on your screen perhaps, but it is approximately located in one of the gray areas, the roof of the building that you can see in front of you. With the remainder of that building being used for agriculturally related storage. To ensure that the on-farm diversified use remains limited in size and secondary to the agricultural use of the lands, staff in 2018 recommended that a maximum gross floor area of 223 square meters or 2,400 square feet for the business and its related structures. And staff are now recommending that this continue to be included within the zone provisions of the temporary use zoning bylaw. Staff have been advised that the hauling business and the proposed inspections and repairs to the hauling fleet is directly related to the applicant's farming operation and benefits from being located on farm. Further, staff are satisfied that the agricultural-related hauling business, fleet inspection, and repairs from a single business, they form one single business, as the fleet inspections and repairs are exclusively devoted to the hauling business and the farm equipment servicing to a normal farm practice, which remains consistent with the North Middlesex official plan policy of having one secondary business per property. Staff are not aware of any concerns regarding the existing use of the lands with respect to noise, traffic, parking, light, or nighttime operation, and planning staff do not anticipate negative impacts to the surrounding agricultural community or adjacent environmental features. Staff are of the opinion that the continuation of the agricultural related hauling business with the accessory fleet vehicle inspections and repairs, as well as farm equipment servicing, remains consistent with the North Middlesex criteria for a temporary use, and that is, it is considered to be compatible with the surrounding uses and has appropriate services, access, and parking, as well as meets the official plan criteria for an on-farm secondary business use. Subsequent to the additional 3-year time period, if the intent is to operate after 2024, staff strongly recommend that the applicants apply for a permanent zoning bylaw amendment and site plan control applications as per the direction in the North Middlesex official plan for on-farm secondary businesses. Notice of the application was circulated in accordance to the Planning Act, and staff received the following comments. North Middlesex Public Works Department stated no additional water or sanitary comments at this time. The North Middlesex Chief Building Official stated no objections to the proposal. The Asable Bayfield Conservation Authority has no concerns with the application. And at the time of writing the subject report, no comments have been received from members of the public. So it is recommended that the application be granted. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. At this time, we do have Julian Earl Bullock with us. Is there anything you'd like to add?
I don't think there's anything at this time I can add to that report. I do thank Stephanie for her assistance with this.
Okay. Thank you, Julie. We have no public comment and council, questions from council. I'm sure that most of us remember them coming forward to us. No questions from council. We have a recommended motion in front of us. Moved by Councilor Keogh, seconded by Councilor Moyer. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Julie. At this time, we do have to, well, we're still in public meeting. Okay, this is for application ZBA 14-2021, located at 192-194 Park Hill Main Street. It's a new fire hall and EMS building. And so we're looking for the planner's report on this as well. Stephanie?
Thank you. The purpose and effect of the zoning bylaw amendment application is to rezone the subject lands from the central commercial exception C1-2 zone and the institutional zone to the institutional exception I1-2 zone in order to permit the construction of a municipally owned fire hall / EMS station with a front yard setback of 5.5 meters or 18 feet, whereas the minimum required front yard setback in the institutional zone is 9 meters or 29.5 feet, and a lot coverage of 22%, whereas the maximum permitted lot coverage is 20%. Staff are of the opinion that the proposed fire hall / EMS station remains consistent with the PPS and is in conformity to the county and North Middlesex official plans, as it is proposed to be located within the urban settlement area boundary of Park Hill, where development and growth is generally encouraged on full services. And the proposed development will be fully serviced as per the policies of the provincial policy statement, county and North Middlesex official plans. Civic and public uses, including government offices and functions, are contemplated within the central area designation within the North Middlesex official plan. Staff are of the opinion that the proposed rezoning to establish the replacement of a municipally owned fire hall / EMS station is an appropriate use of the land and in conformity with the North Middlesex official plan. Staff have been advised that 192 and 194 Park Hill Main Street are to be legally merged into one larger parcel in order to accommodate the new building. The result of the rezoning application will be one zoning category for the lands to be merged as a whole in order to apply consistent zoning regulations such as setbacks, lot coverage, etc., as opposed to two separate zone categories that currently are in place. Staff have reviewed the site plan and are of the opinion that the requested institutional exception zone to permit a front yard setback of 5.5 meters and a lot coverage of 22% is considered to be appropriate of the subject lands for the proposed use. The proposed building is to be located further back from the road than the existing fire hall, ensuring safe access to and from the building for fire and emergency vehicles, as well as staff and public vehicles, while also maintaining adequate distance from the traveled portion of the road. The additional 2% lot coverage allows for the establishment of a larger and more up-to-date fire hall / EMS station to better serve the growing community of Park Hill and surrounding area. Staff are satisfied that all other requirements of the parent institutional zone are being met and are supportive of the requested zone change. Notice of the application was circulated in accordance to the requirements of the Planning Act, and staff received the following comments. The North Middlesex Chief Building Official has stated no objections to the proposal, and the Asable Bayfield Conservation Authority notes that the new proposed building does not encroach into the regulated area, and as such, does not oppose the approval of the requested zoning bylaw amendment. At the time of writing the subject report, no comments or concerns have been received from the public regarding the proposal. However, subsequent to writing the report, staff did receive a written submission from a member of the public, which will be addressed in the written submissions portion of the meeting. So it is recommended that the application be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. At this time, it is provision for written submissions, and I believe, Jackie, you have a letter in front of you?
Stephanie, did you want to review that or did you want me to?
Sure, it doesn't matter. I have it in front of me as well, so I can read it.
Okay.
So the written submission received was from Dr. Christian Duzman of 91 Sunset Ave in Watford. And it was noted that, I will read it, quote, word for word for council. So I own the land on the east side of Park Hill Main Street and north of the existing Park Hill Fire Hall. The property is 196 Park Hill Main Street with a veterinary office and 3 apartments. I have the following concerns. Concern number 1, the existing setback decreases the noise factor that affects the tenants of my property. Concern number 2, the existing setback allows for easier snow removal on the right of way to the parking area at the back of 196 Park Hill Main Street. Decreasing the setback may result in increased difficulty for snow removal. Concern number 3, decreasing the setbacks may affect the daylight that tenants presently enjoy in their units. And then there is a secondary section which states that since the municipality of North Middlesex has applied for the rezoning of the property, one has to assume that the EMS station can be located anywhere on the property, whether it be on the north or south side. The municipality already has non-commercial tenants on the main street paying commercial rates for their water and sewage. An EMS station will be serviced 24 hours a day. This will result in an increased noise for property owners and tenants adjacent to the EMS station. In other communities such as Watford, the EMS station is on the outskirts of town. If one looks to the future, is this the direction in which the municipality of North Middlesex should proceed with this property? I have a businessman on the main street that has to park in our parking lot because he says there is no available parking. You have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to develop the downtown area by using this property for future businesses and parking. Come to Watford and see how they are revitalizing their downtown. In the past, I was part of and the president of a company that built numerous homes and had a large commercial property. I hope you will take the future into consideration. Thank you for your consideration, Christian Duzman.
Thank you,
End of
Stephanie.
letter.
Thank you, Stephanie. Greg, is there something you would like to add at this time before we go to council? Are you here to answer questions from? Okay, so questions from council? Either towards the letter or the whole application? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Canales.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Greg, in your view, I know Dr. Guzman referred to noise and the disruption of whatnot, given that the EMS will be there in the fire hall. Has that been a concern in the past? Did you foresee any issues around those concerns?
I'm not aware of any concerns having been expressed either from the fire side or EMS's adjacent neighbors. No.
No, because currently EMS is also in a residential neighborhood, is it not?
That is correct.
Okay, and there's been no concerns expressed by any of those neighbors?
None to me.
Thank you.
Other questions from council? Go ahead.
Did the public have input in this new proposal that we have? Have we had like a public meeting or an open consultation where they could make comment? I don't recall.
Through your worship, this is part of the public process
Right now.
as it
okay.
relates to the rezoning file. Site plans are tricky in this instance because the site plan is actually with us.
Yeah.
But through site plan control, you typically don't have a public consultation unless a rezoning or minor variance is triggered. And in this case, a rezoning is required to recognize the industrial use.
Just another question. What's he talking about with the water? And I'm not sure what he was talking about with the water, the usage of water.
Yeah. I would ask the complainantee to reach out to us if he's watching. It was more for public record for his concerns. What I can surmise from what he's indicating from water is either the commercial rate, which both the tenant being ourselves and EMS will have to pay for. And that rate increase is subject to our water wastewater.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from council? I would have one, with this new plan, is it going to adversely affect the snow removal? Because right now the building is right on, the old building is right on the property edge, right? And we're going to be over from that. So I'm just wondering how we affect that snow removal adversely.
Not being involved in snow removal, I don't know that I'm the definitive answer on this, but it seems to me it'll be improved. We'll have a wider laneway that they're not going to block up that one single lane moving to the back of that building.
Well, that's what I thought, but he just made mention of it. That's why I was asking if I missed something.
No.
Any other questions from council?
Mr. Duzman, he's responsible for removing the snow between the fire hall and his property. Is that what he's talking about?
Through your worship, our snow removal on our site is our responsibility.
Okay,
Mr. Duzman would be responsible for his own snow
but isn't
removal.
it gonna be like a shared laneway sort of thing or whatever?
We do not have a shared laneway proposal in this, except for EMS and fire will be sharing the turning circle or the turning radiuses and the impervious material in the parking spaces.
Okay, just because I haven't got the plans in front of me. So between his Duzman's building and his laneway and where the fire department laneway starts, is there quite a bit of space there? Like it would be, oh, there, sorry.
It's pretty significant. But there's also quite a bit of grass space around the boundary as well.
Okay.
And the gravel parking lot or the gravel area for training has been kind of reserved for a little bit of snow storage. So we'll be utilizing that and most likely adding this to the contractor facilities for snow removal.
Okay.
Okay, so it should improve instead of worse. That's what.
I would think so.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Doreen. Any other questions from council? No other questions? You have a recommended motion in front of you. Are you moving that? Moved by Councilor McClinchy, seconded by Councilor Keogh. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Greg. At this time, we have to make a motion to go out of public meeting and return to regular meeting. Moved by Counselor Nickel, Counselor Moyer seconded. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. So it is 6:20. I believe we're running a bit late, but it's Aqua's doing their presentation of the second quarter for the quarter financials, and it's presented by Jackie and Rod are both here. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council, members of staff, present to you tonight first and second quarter reports. We started things a little bit different this year. We have a report to council that I'm going to be presenting tonight in with our operational reports. And our operational reports are a more detailed report. I won't be presenting that to you, but if there's any questions on that report, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. So this report to council that I have, the idea behind this is to give members of council and residents at home a more in-depth look at what our daily operations are for our wastewater and our water systems here in this round of Middlesex. So we have the also create wastewater treatment plant and the Parkhill Lagoon system Q1, Q2 overview. And the purpose of this report is to provide an overview of the first and second quarter wastewater operations for council and our residents. Daily operations, also create wastewater treatment plant. We have operational rounds, checks, and lab analysis that are performed daily. This includes recording and documenting all the processes of operation of the equipment at the facility. And the examples are pump run hours, flow data collection, tank levels, generator run hours, lab analysis, testing, sampling, inspection of building condition, and ventilation and security. We have 5 sewage pumping stations in full. And again, we provide the same service that includes operational rounds and checks that are performed daily, documenting the operation of these facilities. Pump run hours, flow data collection, sampling, wet well levels, generator run hours, inspection of the facility condition, ventilation, and security. From there, we have what we call maintenance work orders, preventative maintenance work orders. It includes operation review, greasing, oil changes, air filter and belt replacement, testing of equipment, and alarms, and it also includes any minor repairs that are both preventative and corrective in nature. And these work orders are generated monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, and annually. To give you an idea of what that includes, we have our bar screen, our grit removal system, odor control system, aeration, clarifier, tank inspection. We have our traveling bridge, which is our tertiary treatment system. We also have blower maintenance, valve cycling, and inside the plants. And again, that's going to be on a monthly basis, semi-annually, annually, for this come out in our work order system. Next we have is our wastewater programs that we initiated this year in partnership with municipal staff. And the purpose of these programs are to
notified to the point where, on a monthly basis or a daily basis. Right now, we're monitoring that issue. We're collecting samples and going through our raw sewage sampler. And that's all I can tell you right now, through your worship. I don't know why these values have exceeded. It's the first time this year. I went back to about 2015. I have seen no other historical data that says why that is. But that's all we can do right now is just continue to see what that is and strategically look at the next steps.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just
No, it's perfect.
want some clarification on that.
Capital projects, LC Craig Wastewater Treatment Plant Energy Optimization by SEMA, currently working. SEMA has identified processes resulting in high energy consumption with recommended return on investment. The work completed thus far has resulted in a joint paper submission to be presented at the Water Environment Association of Ontario Conference, that's WEO for short, scheduled for November 7th and 8th. And we can make that paper available for you, but that's pretty exciting for us because that was between SEMA Engineering, Municipality of North Middlesex, and Aqua regarding the information that we found out for that high energy consumption at the LC Craig wastewater treatment plant that we're all familiar with. The big ones that have been indicated, of course, is the HVAC system. That's the highest energy consuming asset that we have at that plant at 42.6%. The next is the William Street sewage pumping station at 17.4%. There's not much we can do more at the William Street sewage pumping station, but the next one is going to be the aeration system at LC Craig at 12.3. And that brings me to my next LC Craig aerator pilot project. So representative from IPAX Inc. and Aqua, we're on site to review the potential use of mechanical vortex system in various locations at the plant instead of forced air, which is our blowers. And this is all in part of looking into reducing energy saving. We're still in the initial stages of that. Nothing's probably going to happen this year, but we're working towards having something for next year, and that's a collaboration with the MECP as well. The next we have is the LC Craig supervisory control and data acquisition. So it's just the Scada Upgrade at the LC Craig plant. And I've been working with engineers regarding the LC Craig collection system, Park Hill collection system, and the Park Hill wastewater treatment plant design with multiple different engineers in those regards. But is there any questions that anyone has regarding this report or the operational report that's in detail?
Questions from council at this point?
Yeah, the new program that was initiated referred to at the onset of the presentation, and I'm pleased to hear that the proactive approach being applied. So I should turn this on. Sorry, Mayor. Has it shown any benefits yet at this point in time?
Absolutely. It's with the SCADA system is we're going to be a huge benefit in the design. Nothing has been implemented yet. We're hoping to have that completed by the fall. Sanitary sewer stuff that I mentioned before when it comes to our manhole inspection, that's scheduled for the fall. CTV is going to be into the fall. But I can tell you from the water system that the benefits I can have more in detail. I foresee that the sewer system will be, or the sanitary system and the wastewater treatment plant systems will benefit as well.
Thank you.
Other questions at this time? Councillor Hemming and then Councillor Keel.
Thanks, Mayor Rob. Rod, can you explain to me what the mechanical vortex system is?
Yeah, it's a system that's going to be using the existing flow that uses like a turbine, basically is the easiest way to say it. Whereas, so you're not using power, you're using flow. And it's going to generate a turbulence that's going to cause air in that water. Whereas before the blowers uses energy to use a turbine to spin it to make air. So,
Councillor Keel.
Ron, I just have one question here. You mentioned the comment HVAC systems that are highest power consumption. Is that HVAC system controlled through Scada, or is it separate to the
it is separate, and there's the program that is existing has now been outdated. So moving forward, there's a possibility that could be upgraded later. But I think the direction that on this return investments that we're going to see that's recommended from SEMA is going to be more of VFDs, variable frequency drives. That's going to reduce the speed of this HVAC system.
Would we have a dollar figure on what 42?
I wouldn't have that figure for you right off. I just know that it was.
Basically, what we should do is we go to the budget to see if there's some programming effect.
I think that's a great point. Is there a chance that we can get for the future what dollars we're looking at there?
So as part of this work that SEMA is doing is actually doing a return of investment. So they're going to make recommendations that's going to include a dollar figure to have. And I know working with Jonathan as well, I'm sure that's coming.
Okay. Great question. Other questions, council? No other questions this time? Okay, carry on.
So next we have is the water system. And again, the purpose is to give an overview of both first and second quarter operational reports. Daily operations include the Park Hill Reservoir, Mount Carmel Reservoir, Delivery Booster Station, West Williams Booster Station, and the distribution system. Operational rounds and checks. These are performed daily at all facilities and include the following reporting and documenting the operation of equipment, pump run hours, pressures that are incoming and outgoing, flow data collection, reservoir levels, generator run hours, sampling, security, and building condition. We also perform distribution residuals that are done weekly. And right now I put locates are performed daily. And that has been something, as you can be aware of with Park Hill with fiber going in. Right now we're sitting at 509 locates for the second quarter. Just in the month of July, we performed 169 locates just in the month of July. Historical data shows we're averaging about that 680 locates in a year. So we're well on pace to exceed that. And that's important information when you're looking at implementing new programs and keeping up with the regular maintenance that you've already been doing when you see a high number of locates like that come in. Maintenance work orders, operational process and equipment specific, operation review, greasing, oil changes, air filter and belt replacement, testing of equipment and alarms. Also include any major or minor repairs that are both preventative and corrective. And these work orders are generated monthly, quarterly, and semi-annually and annually. Water maintenance programs, basically the same idea as what wastewater was to enhance future capital planning and future preventive maintenance. We have hydrant, some of these that we've also done historically, and we have also just enhanced for our water program, like hydrant flushing, blow-off flushing, water valve cycling, air valve inspection, pressure reducing valve inspection, meter pit installation, water main service inspection, and water loss. On the maintenance side of things, for hydrant maintenance, I usually do about 5 a year out of 162 that we have in our system. Blow-offs, I'm looking about 10 a year that we kind of do an excavation on. Water valves, I'm happy to report that we're looking at about 30 this year. So far for the second quarter, that's going to go up. Air valve, historically, I'm looking about 2 air valves a year. And that's what I've got so far. And we have about 34 in our system. That's both water and wastewater. Pressure reducing valve maintenance. I've done 2 and I've replaced 1. Meter pit maintenance for the second quarter, I've installed 11. Water main service maintenance, we're looking at 4 water service inspections. And investigation surveys, district metering areas and pressure monitoring. That turns out to be almost weekly. And if for council and our residents at home that are listening, any suspected leaks that you may think that is a leak, please don't hesitate to call, because that's something that we desperately need when we're looking at our large distribution system. So that investigation is not just meeting the residents and seeing where this leak is, but it can look at acoustic leak detection surveys, it's pressure monitoring, it's district metering areas. There's a lot of work that goes into that to determine where that leak is and where it comes from. If you see a hydrant that is bagged for a long period of time, doesn't necessarily mean that hydrant's out of service because it's broke. We may have a pressure monitor on that hydrant, and we may leave that for about a month. We'll do the revalving of that system to change it for another feed, and then we'll record that data to see what that pressure is like for a month. So you may see a hydrant that's bagged out of service for a couple months, but there's reason for that. It's not just because it's in disrepair. Operational highlights, water loss investigation. Again, I mentioned that we would do that weekly. We have a recent submission that was made at the 2021 Ontario Waterworks Association regarding the recent success on water loss management in LC Craig, and we can make that report available for you as well. Regional water supply shutdowns that we have listed for you there to review. Again, there's a lot of work that goes into those shutdowns. Distribution system verification, locating and confirming the operation of all water services within a municipality. So physically going on site and checking the operation, or locating and checking the operation of those water services. Staff training. I put this in here because it's probably the first time that I've done this, and it seemed to work out well. With all our operators and myself included, we all have to have a certain amount of hours training to our training on the job, practical health and safety, and what we call certified education units. And this is the first time that I've done this within the first quarter. Not to mention that I can't do any more training, or I can do more training throughout the course of the year, but it's nice that I got all the mandated training done in the first quarter. So if something does come up, I don't necessarily have to take it. It gives us more flexibility when it pertains to these programs that we're trying to implement. E-logbook implementation. So what that means is that, historically when we go to these sites, we would have a pen and a logbook that we would physically write what we've done that day in that logbook. E-logbooks now means is that we can actually, you don't have to take a pen. We can actually put it in our phone and actually, write the operations that we did right then in that moment via our phone. It's a new innovation. It's new technology that we have implemented here in Aqua, and especially, I have nieces that have gone up through school that doesn't necessarily know how to write cursive now. So it's a new technology that I'm happy to implement, and Aqua is on board with that, and with the new operators that are coming up in the future, it's all by phone and tablet now. Staff completed 11 meter pit installations and repaired 30 valves as part of the valve maintenance program and meter pit program. Capital projects, LC Craig Water Tower engineering design, been working on that. West Williams Booster Station upgrade, Park Hill Reservoir upgrade, and the Park Hill Main Street upgrade as well. And lastly, the drinking water quality management system, DWQMS. We had no non-conformances, which is great, and 2 opportunities for improvement. Any questions on either report when it comes to the water system?
Questions, Deputy Mayor Canellis, and then Councilor Moyer after that.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. I do have a couple questions for you, Rod, if I may. You made reference to water loss, and I've seen a number of referrals to the water loss, but it seems that the primary focus is LC Craig. Given the extent of the large system that we have, what is the water loss considered to be in the rural areas where we have extensive kilometers of pipe?
Through your worship, right now we're seeing that we're focusing on LC Craig, but it's just because we have a lot of paperwork documenting that right now. When it comes to rural areas, it's difficult to put numbers to, because we don't have district meters to tell you what we've done and what we haven't done. Until we get some district metering in, it would be very easy for us to say that we can project these numbers. I went from a 15 liters per second minimum nighttime flows down to 5. What I can tell you is that, say, out of that 30 valves that I repaired, that was just been identified from our maintenance valve cycling program, I probably have at least 7 of those that were leaks that weren't surfacing above grade that we found. So if we can continue with our maintenance program, we are going to find leaks in our distribution system. And that's why I'm very happy to say that we got 30 as per our second quarter. And if I found 7 leaks, I can't tell you when I was going to find those. It could have been a year, it could have been 2 years.
Thank
could have
you.
been waited for a catastrophic failure to happen. So
Thank you. And the second part of my question is you made reference to the high number of locates that you're performing for Picard Construction for the fiber optics. Is there any compensation for that? Is there any cost recovery for those locates?
no,
Really?
there's not that I'm aware of. And I've been working on this for some time. This is a part of the Ontario One Call. So it's a legislative regulative body. And this is just what it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Moyer.
Thanks. Rod, I'm just wondering with the water maintenance program, doing some hydrant flushing, is there any consideration done to the water lines themselves because of the age of our system of flushing lines?
No, it's the consideration is that the reason we flush our hydrants is to create a scour velocity enough to make sure that there's no deposits on any of the metal fittings and valves that are in there. So it's actually a requirement that you want to do. When we consider our lines, when I flush, I don't aggressively flush. I flush, or our operators flush the system with care, so not creating water hammer and causing system fluctuations that are going to result in breaks and leaks and things like that.
Okay, so there is some flushing being done.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
Okay, other questions from council on this? No, carry on.
Well, I think next is our financial reports.
Good evening, Your Worship, Council and Municipal staff. In front of you, you have the second quarter financials for the 3 facilities, and for the Elsa Craig Wastewater Treatment Plant, we are under budget by $3,822. For the Park Hill Water Treatment or Wastewater Treatment Plant, we are under budget by $4,360. And for the North Middlesex Water Systems, we are under budget by $18,771. And overall for the second quarter, we are under budget by $26,953. The breakdown of all the other each facility is attached. So I am happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Questions from council on the finance part. Whenever it comes in under budgeted, you get a lot less questions. Have you noticed that? Any other questions from council here?
I do have one. Is any of the reduced costs associated with the COVID pandemic that we're experiencing, or is it just efficiency on the part of our?
Well, like when you look at the breakdown of the costs in that, there are things that are done throughout the year, so they may not take place in the first quarter. So this is where annual inspections of lifting equipment, some of the maintenance isn't done till the second and third quarter. So it may even out further down through the year, but through COVID, our staff have been on site doing their jobs. No problem.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Hemming.
Thanks, Mayor. Rod and Jackie, how are you finding dealing with the supply and demand situation? Do we have a contingency for the increases, like for the chemicals, even though I see that we're down, but do you have a contingency to cover the cost of the increasing expenses?
Through your worship to Councillor, for that is we have a cost plus agreement. And so what we do is we show the true cost through the year. So if you look at the Elsa Craig, if you go to the second page and you look at chemicals, chemicals were for the second quarter were up. But again, this is where when I say it evens out. For the first quarter, we didn't order chemicals, but we ordered the second quarter. And now for the third quarter, we may not order them, but for the fourth quarter, we may. So it kind of goes when we order the consumables of what month it hits the budget. Sorry, Rod, you can go ahead.
I can add a little bit. When it comes to chemicals, especially when wastewater facilities or other water facilities that use chlorine for disinfection purposes, regardless of COVID, it's pretty important operation. So the chemicals are going to be there. What I've noticed is when it comes to parts, so like the valve parts, I've noticed that there's been some delays in ordering. And they say that is COVID related. So we have to look at scheduling our work strategically in order to meet that supply and demand. And that there has been challenges, but we've been able to do that so far.
Excellent. Other questions from council? Just a comment before you go, these new reports, I understand they take a little longer for us to come through council, but they are much better reports. We get a better understanding, council gets a better understanding, and our public, our residents get a better understanding of what yous are doing and the work that's going on. So I appreciate these reports and thank you for your time.
No, thank you. I'm happy to hear that. That's
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. At this time, we do have another delegation. Sorry that we're running a little later, but it is for the presentation of the committee to establish Middlesex County Archives. And we have Carol Small and Dr. David Elliott, Bev Hughes, and Wayne Tingle here.
Good evening, Mayor Robb, councilors and staff. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to present our case for Middlesex County Archives. We represent a number of heritage and cultural groups in Middlesex County. I'm David Elliott. I've been a resident of Park Hill since 1996. I'm a former history professor, and I've operated a historical research business in Park Hill since 2002. I'm the past chair of the Middlesex Genealogical Society. And from 2005 to 2011, I was a member of an earlier reiteration of this committee calling for a county archives. And some of our team have been pushing for this for at least 20 years. With me is Carol Small, the chair of our group. Carol is an educator who has worked throughout the county. She also served in Park Hill as the vice principal of the West Williams Elementary School and was a trustee for the Middlesex Board of Education. She has held positions with Fanshawe Pioneer Village and the Ilderton Fair. And she's also the chair of the Middlesex Center Archives at Delaware. With us also is Wayne Tingle, a former clerk for London Township. For many years, Wayne has been researching the locations of Middlesex Township records and has found some of them in appalling conditions. Over the past months, we have inundated you with fact sheets and information about the need for a county archives. And we're going to show you a brief PowerPoint presentation which capsulizes that information. And after it, we will entertain questions which you may wish to direct to us. So if your technician can turn on the PowerPoint, please. So just move it through so people have a chance of looking at the slides. And this is primarily an information exercise. Both the federal governments and the provincial governments have legislated that records have to be kept. And with increasing situations with records deteriorating, they need to be put into proper storage and to be accessible. I don't know how many of you have been able to put your hands on the old records going back to the beginning of the townships in Ontario, and particularly in this area. And do you really know where the records are? Many organizations have digitized their records, but have you kept the original copies? Technology changes, and sometimes we have to go back to the originals. And We've got some photos here of how records have been stored in various places. Most archives require humidity-controlled air and also proper temperatures for the preservation of these documents. And our proposal will really assist the clerks of the various townships and municipalities in accessing their records and having them stored in safe facilities. And there are all kinds of people who would be using the archives, and particularly people in legal profession, architects, planners, and so forth. And our local history is important because if we don't know where we've been, we're not going to know where we're going. And there's business records that also need to be put in here, organization records from various community groups, family history, pioneer stories, and so forth. And an archives can generate a certain amount of money with admission fees and research fees and fees for copying documents and so forth. But also it's a great saving for the individual municipalities because you don't have to have all these records in your facility. They can be in one county facility that is readily served by the archival staff. And the real shame of the situation is that Middlesex, one of the really important counties in Ontario, does not have an archives, with many of the other counties around us having various types of archives. And the one at Lambton in Wyoming is an excellent facility. There are all kinds of records also that are in the old courthouse, and they're going to have to be put someplace when that facility is eventually vacated. So it's time to really think seriously about a county archives. We
Okay.
will entertain questions.
All right, questions from council. One comment I would make that is our clerk can say that we're in the process of Laserfish and doing that work. She can't leave, you see, until she gets that done. No, but we're in the process of doing that. And but your point is well made, I believe, of keeping track of records. Jackie is a proponent of that as well, because ours are kept at an old garage, like at the old council chambers in McGilvery, and they certainly are not in the best kept environment. But questions from council here?
Could I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, absolutely.
Your laser fishing, your records, are you keeping the originals?
So any permanent records, we are still keeping the original. So your minutes, your bylaws, we are putting them into Laserfish for accessible for staff. But I know a lot of other municipalities, some do, some don't. I'm of the opinion that we keep the originals. I don't know what will happen down the road once they go into Laserfish, but myself, and I think the mayor has expressed too, the electronic signatures and different things that are out. I think there's still value in actually looking at the document and signing the document. So that's the way it has historically been up until and including my time here. You know, what happens after that, I can't honestly say.
I applaud you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor McClinchy.
So you're saying that Middlesex is one of the counties that do not have archives?
Yes,
You saw the map.
there's a map there showing all of the
Okay,
counties that do have archives.
okay.
And those are county archives, total archives, municipal and local history incorporated in them.
So how is this project being funded right now with your time? And I know you probably put a lot of hours into this. How is this, is it being funded through other municipalities? Or how is it being funded? Or is it all volunteer?
It's volunteer, and any photocopying, any mailing charges, that's been done through the Middlesex Center Archives, and we are an archives at Delaware. It incorporates all of Middlesex Center. We spent a great deal of our time trying to get grants.
And
we've had some success. Our community is terribly, terribly supportive. We had an online auction in February and raised $7,800.
excellent.
Yes, we believe in doing our own work, but a county archives, I think one of the things that we should stress is these organizations, our archives is no exception, but the historical societies, they're an aging group. I hate to admit it, because my grandchildren still say, Grandma, you're 21. And I
Just reverse the number.
And anyway, they're an aging group, and their worry is, we've got all these wonderful, precious records. What's going to happen to them? Because we cannot carry on, and who's going to take over? And that's why they want a county archives, and they're stressing it. And at Middlesex Center Archives, if I can use that as an example, we were established in 2013, and Middlesex Center Council has been very supportive in that they have given us the old Delaware Township offices and supply all that with heat, hydro, telephone, internet. But since then, we have had to rent 2 other sites because we have had so much stuff coming in. And with COVID, we had to rent the second site. And we've been lucky in getting grants to get rolling shelving so that we can have more space, but they're full. And if that's happening to us, that's happening to all the groups throughout the county. With COVID, people are going through their stuff.
Okay. Other questions? Councilor Keel.
Thank you. What is Middlesex County's stance on this? County as a whole?
We are going to county council on September 28th to make a formal presentation to ask them to support a county archives.
But at this time, you're just checking with the local municipalities to gain support with this.
We're presenting you with information.
Right.
So that you've got a good grasp of what's going on. And that's why you're getting all the information. With COVID, we had to look at other means and social media and email. And those fact sheets, if you read through them, they're well written. Our archivist, who was archives advisor for the province, wrote those, and they're well written, a lot of information in a short stance on them. So yeah, and what we're finding is people, places like Western, who that was probably one of the reasons Middlesex didn't have an archives, or the City of London, because everything went into Western. Well, Western Archives is full. It's also a corporate, not only their stuff, but they're a corporate archives for Canadian Tire. So they're sending their stuff back out. So the London Room had a lot of Middlesex stuff at the London Library too, and they're sending their stuff back to Middlesex. So Middlesex has got to find some space or they're going to lose it. And we've lost a lot. You've seen the slide there with floods, dumpsters, fire.
Deterioration and whatnot.
Deterioration, mold, insect, rodents.
So I'll ask this question. At this point in time, it is a volunteer-based effort. When you say that it's going to be funded by fees, do you have a business plan that you are going to approach Middlesex County with, saying, we need to staff it, this is what it's going to cost to run it, and you can legitimately charge fees for a business type plan?
We're not going to tell Middlesex County how to do stuff.
Okay.
That's a county decision.
So you're just raising awareness with Middlesex County right now,
we
trying
have-
to get
We
them.
have some figures and stuff, and we're developing our presentation to council. But they have got all kinds of examples around them. And the other county archives in Norfolk just established their archives in 2020. A lot of the other archives were established in the 1970s, right through. That map has the dates that they were established. And so there's lots of examples and data out there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? We have to learn from the ones who've already done it. I agree. But I think you're looking for, you want lower tier buy-in on this. I mean, that's important to be part of this whole, because it has to be, to me, if everybody doesn't do it, there's no point, in doing it from the county standpoint. Other questions from council? Jackie, go ahead.
If I may, I just really truly want to reiterate what you're getting at, because again, when you speak of Laserfish, that is just turning our records from 2001, scanning them into the system. That's not doing the prior municipalities. So those hard copy books and assessment rolls and all the other accompanying information reports and studies and different stuff, that is all housed out at the McGilvery vault out there. Is it ideal conditions? It's as good as we have right now. Considering where some of the other locations they came from, it's better than where they were with humidity and different things. But I think it's the whole accessibility to them, which is the key to it. It's the preservation, but it's also the accessibility, because if somebody came into our front counter and was doing some research, it would take staff a lot of resources, because we certainly would not want to send public, and nor is that building accessible where we would want public out there. So we'd have to bring books in for people to go through, and that takes up a lot of resources. And I know from the records management and, like I said, we're transferring into Laserfish, that is affinity before, there's no conclusion to it. It's ongoing, and that's moving forward. That's not even looking at what's existing sitting out there. So I am a big advocate of it, because again, as succession plan goes, I know where a lot of the stuff out there is, but moving forward, there needs to be a better system. And, I applaud you for bringing this forward, because I think sometimes is taken for granted where things are until it comes to light. So that's, I guess, what I would like to add to it, that I think, I hope council does support and does recognize this important need at county council level, and we can maybe go get some involvement there.
So my point is, I think we have to have an open, to me, we have to have an open mind to it, and county does have to buy into it. County has to buy into it for it to really work, I think. And we got to keep an open mind until we kind of get an idea, as you say, costing and what that route is. But yeah, I'm in support. Councilor.
Just a question though, looking at the map, when I was looking at the list of names and the areas, I thought, well, there's no Middlesex County here. I did not see that, and I wondered why. Because everything else, I was looking down the side there, and I didn't see it.
Well, those were primarily cultural and historical agencies that have been working with us and are represented on our committee.
Yeah. But I still didn't see Middlesex County.
No, you didn't, because we faced resistance back in 2011. And we're trying again.
Okay. Other questions from council?
I just want to comment. Thank you very much for all the work you're doing. Our history is very important.
Yes, it is.
Yes, thank you. And I do look forward to presentation at county council. Deputy Mayor Cornelison and myself will both be there to
Thank
hear
you. We
it.
look
So,
forward to meeting you
yeah.
there.
Thank you for your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And if you ever have questions, don't hesitate to send an email forth.
Okay.
Not sure we've got all the answers, but if we don't know, we'll try.
All right. All right. Thanks, Karen. Okay, at this time, we'll start our department reports. And the first one is from our clerk, and it's the 2022 election update and the preparation report.
Thank you to the mayors and members of council. A report has been prepared for you entitled Election 22 Preparation and Update. Key date, October 24th, 2022 is the official voting day for your 2022 municipal and school board elections according to the Municipal Elections Act. As council is well aware, election starts well in advance of the election day, and this is the beginning of starting to pull things together for that election. So one of the first items is establishing what type of voting method you're going to use. The second is to find a voting system to accommodate that, and supplementary to that by using the alternate voting method, which is your telephone internet voting. Because of some changes with MPAC where our voters list comes from, it also requires an additional component to it called data fix, which works in conjunction with the system from IntelliVote. Council has used, we have used IntelliVote for our past two elections, so for 2014 and 2018. So I am recommending, as you can see in the report, if there's any questions, but the recommendation before council is that you receive and file the report entitled Election 2022 Preparation and Update, that the bylaw to establish an alternative voting method, telephone and internet for the 2022 municipal and school board election be approved, and that the bylaw to execute an agreement with IntelliVote Systems, Inc. for e-voting services for the election be hereby approved, and that staff execute the voter management services agreement with DataFix.
Just a question I have. So what does DataFix add to this whole?
So their housing, it comes in a format from MPAC. DataFix converts it so it can be used with the IntelliVote system. Okay. With any electronic voting system, not just IntelliVote.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Council Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Jackie, it's a good report, and I certainly like the method of voting we had in the last two elections. I think it was very effective. But my question is, you made reference to getting a voters list from MPAC, and I have some questions on that. Given that MPAC, as my understanding is, only accounts for people who own property in our municipality, and therefore would be on the voters list. How do they account, or how do we then establish a voters list that would include people that are tenants that rent apartments or homes from owners?
So the list that MPAC maintains does include tenants. So that's gathered in a variety of, through census, through previous elections, through your Ontario elections, federal elections. So the difficulty being is tenants, unless they apply to be removed, they remain on. And if new tenants move in and they don't apply to be on, they don't get on. So that's the importance of the notification and your blitzes to get people to check to see if they're on the list, and if they're not, to get added on.
And how would we then approach people who may not be aware of that process? Like, how do we reach out to potential voters that they need to apply to be on the voters list?
Well, I think that has come, and you know, we constantly strive to use different mediums to make people aware about the election coming up. And part of that process is the election list and making sure you check to see if you're on it. So MPAC does campaigns on that. The municipality does campaigns, notifications in papers, your social media, any platform we can use to get that word out there. We are doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so this is going to come up under the bylaw.
Well, I'm actually looking for a recommendation from this
Okay.
report.
Looking for a recommendation on the report to go and tell them. Counselor Keel, Counselor McClinchy. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you. Our next one is a report from Jonathan Graham, and that's a 2021 fleet and vehicle report.
Through your worship, members of council, the report in front of you is the 2021 fleet and vehicle report. And the recommendations before I open it up for some question and answer is that council direct staff to retain and repurpose the 2011 Silverado pickup truck as a utility truck as detailed in the fire committee's report from May 11, 2021 as attached, and that council direct staff to retain and repurpose the 2016 F-150 pickup truck, assigning it to the facilities department, and that council directs staff to liquidate the 2019 Dodge Ram pickup truck. As you're aware, through some organizational changes, the CBO is now through Middlesex Center, which they do not require a vehicle, and the bylaw officer or services thereof come from MEU. So 2 previous truck assignments have been utilized through the COVID-19 pandemic in terms of maintaining social distancing and rotating staff in at different times, and they've come to their end where we now need to make a decision. Before I pass it over to Brandon or Greg to explain the rationale to why they possibly may want to keep these vehicles, I would like to note in the inventory list, usually when I do the 50% rule, I go through and take out all the oil, all the tire, all that stuff. But for every single vehicle, that gets a little exhausting. So I've opted just to do a couple spot checks, and it seems to be about a 10% increase on the 50% rule. That's subject to time. As you can probably imagine, if the longer we keep a vehicle, the more oil, the more tires, and so on and so forth. So if there's any specific vehicle that you'd like staff to dial into, I'm more than willing to do that. It's just for the presentation, we just wanted to get it to you because this is long overdue. With that being said, I'll open the floor for any questions, or staff can add anything.
So I was going to say, maybe before we get questions, Greg could speak to the first one, and then John, and then Brandon can speak to the second one. All right, just to help to our questions. So go ahead, Greg. Just talking about that. The first, I guess I'm talking about that 2011 Silverado pickup as a utility vehicle for the fire department.
Thank you, Your Worship. So just some background, as the report states, we used to belong to an organization with many departments in the county where we had contributed some money to purchase cylinders, which were housed in the Strathroy station. And at a big event, if we needed additional cylinders, we could call for them. They would bring them to us. And if we were operating there for an extended period of time, they would be running back and forth to the Strathroy station to fill them, bring them back to us, pick up the empties, take them back, and continue to do that. We no longer have access to that. Most of the other departments in the county who were part of that have upgraded their SCBA packs, and their cylinders were no longer compatible. So back in January or December, we were given a sizable number of SCBA cylinders. But we don't have a way to move them at a call to a fill station. And we still have access to the Strathroy fill station where we can go, but we have no means of moving them. With the current 2011 Silverado Chief's truck coming to the end of its usual life, my suggestion is that we repurpose it, put a sliding tray similar to the picture that is included in the report in the back of it, and we'd be able to move cylinders that way. That keeps us from having to take the cylinder, the siren, the radio, the lights off of the 2011 and moving them to some other vehicle. So I feel like it cuts down our cost, and the trade-in value of that 2011 is pretty low, according to the car dealer that I spoke with.
Okay.
Any questions?
Okay, go ahead. Councillor Keel.
183, 184.
Before there's any consideration given to this, Was this truck actually taken to any of our local garages to have them go through it just to see what repairs it may need in the near future?
Yes, the last time it was in for, I think it was when the snow tires were swapped out, I asked them to tell me if there was anything that they could see. They said lower ball joints, about $400 to repair those.
Okay, so this truck for the most part is going to be sitting in a parking lot until it's required.
It'll be sitting in a station. It'll be
Okay.
sitting in the Ulster Craig station.
So I guess my thing, it's always been my experience on an aging vehicle with 183,000 kilometers, that the worst thing it can do is just sit. I see your the thought process, that it is cost effective in saving some money. However, I'm just afraid that in 2 or 3 months time from now, when you do go to use it, and there's a big puddle of transmission fluid under it, or the air conditioning doesn't work, it's a $3,000 or a $4,000 or a $5,000 bill back into a 2011 truck with 183,000 kilometers, when we have at our disposal a 2019 truck that has significantly less kilometers on it. That I think that would only be, this is my opinion, to bring it to council, that it would be better out with the old and in with the new, and keep this fleet up to date. There will be costs incurred on decaling it and retrofitting it for bottle storage and transportation, but there's going to be that with this now. So why would we not do it on something newer versus something older?
I'm just as happy to take a 2019 as the 2011, so
There's
I heard a motion.
any other questions here? Deputy Mayor Nelson and then Councilor Moyer.
I would agree with Councillor Keel on that, particularly when I look at the 50% rule, and the 2011 is at 49%, and the 2019 is at 1%. So logistically speaking, it only makes sense to me that we retain the 2019. I would certainly agree with Councillor Keel on that comment.
Councilor Moyer.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. There's a point I was going to bring up. I do have a question for Brandon as well. I don't know if
Okay,
we
we'll
can
come
go on
to that.
on
We just want to
later.
talk about this in here. So any other questions from council or any other comments from council? I have one, and I'm struggling with keeping a second truck right now. And my reasoning being, we don't know, like, we're building the new station. And you talked about, I know you've talked about doing our own filling of our own bottles here. And then why do we have that truck then? So I think I'm not saying down the road we wouldn't put a second truck in there, but I think for the amount of times it gets used, maybe we have a tray that we put into a truck, to go get cylinders in it for a short term. But to keep a truck around, period, whether it's an 11 or a 19 at this point, I'm struggling with having that second truck until we know the new station, and maybe in 2 years' time, knowing better what's needed. So that's my own personal thought on that truck. I'm just struggling with that whole extra truck right now. So that's just my 2 cents worth in here. We can, so is there any other comments on that truck?
I just like to make one more comment to that, to Mayor Ropp, that the beating we would take on disposing of a 2019 truck at this point in time would be pretty significant, where, whatever we received out of the disposition of a 2011 truck would be far less. That I think that with the 2019, if we're going to move that route, that it would be far better because we can find other usage for that truck.
So I agree with that part. If we're going to do it, I absolutely agree with doing the 2019, not the 2011. Because I'm afraid the other thing is, if we do the 2011 in a year from now, we're sitting here saying we need a new truck to replace that 2011 at the fire station to sit most of the time. So I agree with you on using a newer truck, because that 2011, the rust is held together by the gold stickers. The rust was never fixed before the stickers were put on. Jonathan, do you have a comment on the 2019 or the trade-in?
So through your worship, and it's all market speculative, right? There is a little bit of a shortage for used trucks right now because of the pandemic. So they are calling for them. I do respect Councillor Keogh's opinion that you're going to take a beating no matter which way, but it doesn't seem that it's going to be a severe beating. The other rationale to keeping the 2011, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the length of the bed. Because it is an 8-foot bed where the 2019 is a 6-foot bed. So we'd have some issues with compatibility with the second cylinder row. But those can be adjusted for, obviously. We're just looking to save a little bit of money and with what's right in front of us. That's really the only comment I have to that one, but I think it's important to also hear Brandon's rationale to his truck. So Brandon, go ahead.
Yeah, I think so. Before, we'll talk about the second truck before we, talk about the whole thing. Go ahead, Brandon.
So for our department, prior to COVID, we had free pickup trucks. You'll recall that in the 2019 budget cycle, I actually requested a crew cab truck to try and increase efficiency for our staff. Obviously, we never got to see that through as COVID came into play. And what happened during COVID was we ended up with a bylaw truck and the CBO truck so that every staff could have their own vehicle. There would be no cross contamination. Entering this summer, I decided to take another route of efficiency for our crews to try and increase service levels. We went to one grass crew maintaining cemeteries only, and that was their focus. One crew with the crew cab truck, it was 2 students and one seasonal and 1 full-time, and they were responsible for all our parks, our works garages, our sports fields. And then we have a third truck out every day responsible for grooming ball diamonds, pulling our Kubota RTV with the ball groomer, and they're doing that every day, going through their inspection list when they get to the ball diamond and making sure everything's up to spec for our ball players. So that's our 3 trucks tied up that we would normally have. We still have to clean our facilities every day, especially during COVID and disinfecting. So we have somebody who is in need of a vehicle there. We also have somebody who does maintenance for us, and they basically share that truck. Currently they each have their own, but they will be sharing that truck when we go down to 4. And then anything that I do, I just take my personal vehicle currently. And so that's kind of the rationale to keeping a 4th truck, is so that we can keep those 3 crews going all the time during the summer. And then we still have a truck for our cleaner or maintenance work.
Okay. Questions to Brandon? Deputy Mayor Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Brandon, I'm looking here at your item number 3 in your discussion, where you indicate that that your facility employees were reimbursed $1,221 for using their own vehicles. I find that a fairly reasonable amount as opposed to owning another truck and all the costs associated with that truck. Would you say?
It would be fair to say that that doesn't include my mileage. I've never put that down. The other thing that comes into play is they're not insured to drive their personal vehicles. As soon as they drive their personal vehicle for the purpose of business, they would need commercial insurance on their vehicles, which none of the staff currently have. So if they were in a car accident, they would have no insurance if they were driving from a facility to a facility for work.
Well, that third-party liability insurance is relatively inexpensive. I had to get that myself as a former employee in the organizations I work for. So that's fair. It's still cost effective to have them utilize their own vehicles, in my opinion.
Other comments, questions from council on that truck? No? I think, Brandon, you made the point, you're not putting in, that $1,200 doesn't include any expenses from you?
No, it does not.
Okay. No other questions on that? Then the last item in this was about the 2019. I think we've talked about that a little bit here. So council, what's your wish here? I mean, you've got a recommendation in front of you, and the recommendation that council directs staff to retain and repurpose a 2011 Silverado as the utility truck as detailed by the fire committee. And also the council directs staff to retain and repurpose a 2016 F-150 pickup, assign it to the facility department. And that we liquidate the 2019. Councilor Nickel.
That's a question. And you're gonna think I'm really whacked here. Does anybody know the VIN number on that Dodge Ram? And the reason I ask that, if it has a 3 in it, it is not as valuable as if it has a 1 or 2. Because if it has a 3 in it, the components were made in Mexico. And it has a 1 and 2 in it. They were made in Canada or the US.
Through your
And they're
worship,
pulling more money.
through your worship, I wouldn't be able to answer that question right now.
I was just thinking.
But I could definitely look into it. I think what Councillor Keogh was speaking to kind of speaks to even if it was a 3 or a 1, the age difference from the 11 to the 19 is something that would probably outweigh that. But I can certainly look into that in the next couple of days.
I think my other comment, maybe should have made this sooner. For the fire department, to keep the 2011 makes more sense to me. You're gonna retrofit it to carry the things. You're also looking at a machine to fill your home. So to me, to tell the taxpayers, we're gonna jump up to a 2019, even though we have it. It makes sense to me to use an older one, and if it dies, then good, we gotta push to get the filling stations faster, right? Which we've discussed already in the past, so.
Okay, thank you.
So.
Council, oh, sorry, go ahead. Go
You
ahead.
want me to make a recommendation?
We got a question here first, right? You have a question?
Yeah, it's not really a question. It sort of goes along with Jones, I
Okay.
guess. At the fire board, there has been some discussion about looking at our own filling station, and there has been a couple opportunities to purchase some. We lost one, but I know the chief is looking at one. So I guess that would play into it a little bit as well. You know, if something could come up tomorrow, but we could get a filling station, but you know, it could be 2 years as well, right? So I guess that's the other thing that would come into play a little bit on timing of our own filling station.
Okay. Councilor Keogh, do you have?
I guess I have one question, or I need some clarity. Would fleet vehicles not fall under asset management?
Through your worship, they do.
So would it not be favorable to unload old equipment?
Through the terminology of asset
Yes.
management plan, absolutely. It's just there's special that this is just a proposal to bring up the conversation.
Yeah.
The 8-foot versus the 6-foot was really the governing factor in this conversation. But asset management would definitely tell us that the older the vehicle is, again, we want to get rid of that. And it is my intention to put a fleet replacement policy in place. Because right now, asset management isn't refined enough to actually be identifiable to our graders and our backhoes and what have you. So we're going to be coming forward with that in the future. So that'll be complemented with our asset management plan. But it would definitely lean towards the older the vehicle, it should be gone.
Yep.
So, or a lemon, right?
lemon,
I mean,
yeah.
we've had that in the fleet before. You just have, we had a couple of 6.4 diesels and
right,
they didn't work out so good. This is on this report. It's basically you're saying we're going to dispose of one truck. That's what we're saying. It's just, and it seems at least one truck.
Yes,
the
that's
proposal.
definitely, we have a surplus of at least one vehicle
Yep.
that should go.
Okay, so where do you want to go with this? We're looking for a recommendation. Councillor Nickel, you wanted to make a recommendation, and I stopped you for that point. Do you still want to do that? Okay. Can you turn on your mic, please, Joan?
Make a recommendation that the trucks be retained by the fire department as requested, and the same with the works department as requested. And that we sell the newer vehicle.
Facilities.
So just for clarification, are you recommending the motion that's in the report?
Yes, sorry, I closed it. Trying to find it.
Okay, so you've made that motion. Is there a seconder for that motion? Her motion is to the recommendation. Right?
Mhm.
219.
That's the motion. Is there a seconder for that motion? I'm not seeing a seconder, so is there another motion out there? Is there another recommendation out there?
So failing the seconder, the motion is off the table.
Yes. I'm sorry, is there another recommendation, another motion out there? I mean, let's make a decision on it. Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Keogh.
I make the motion to unload, dispose of the 2011, retain the 2019, and the 2016 pickup truck. We'll look at it in 1 year from now. So
I just want to get clarification. So are you basically swapping out the 2011 and the 2019 in that previous
But the
motion
2019, we retain that truck
for the utility truck.
for the fire.
Yep.
The 2011, we dispose of that through whatever method we have through gov deals or whatnot. In the 2016 truck, we retain that for one more year
In the facilities.
in the facilities.
What's the kilometers on this? 216?
Just to clear though, the 2016 would to the facilities.
To facilities.
To the facilities.
Once
Okay,
again,
that's
that
what
would-
I wanted to.
That would get
That
us
part
through
of it.
this COVID threat.
Yeah.
until we find
So
out what we're
basically, you're
doing.
just swapping the 19 and the 11.
That's right.
Through your worship, the 16th is, or the 2016 is 46,000 kilometers, and it's 50% rule is actually performing very well at 10%.
So just in case you want, I got an 03 that, you know, if you want to swap out, you want to use that, that's fine. Deputy Mayor Canelson.
I just want some clarity on Councillor Keel's motion, because he made reference to assigning the 2016 to facilities for a period of 1 year. Does that mean we have to revisit this next year at this time, or?
Just that one vehicle or whatever we do through
In our
budget
entire
process.
fleet, as part of the
As
fleet,
part of
correct?
our fleet upgrade. That way, by keeping it this year, hopefully we'll have more direction or a better idea what this COVID thing and the spacing of workers in vehicles is going to be.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that is basic. So has everybody got that motion? It's 19 and the 11 flip and then look at the 16. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Hemming is seconding it. Discussion on it. Any other discussion on it?
So I'm clear that we're keeping the 19 and the 16.
Yes. Yes. And the 19 would go to the fire department and the 16 is to the facilities.
Okay, and 11 is.
Out. It's, yeah. Out. No other comments on it? In favor of the motion? In favor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, opposed? 2, so that's carried. That's carried. All right. Thanks, gentlemen. Where are we at now? Okay, report from the treasurer, sorry. Lifting of the financial relief efforts from COVID-19. How are you, Estelle? Good.
So the report in front of you is a twofold report. The first fold being a recommendation from staff to lift the temporary financial relief measures that was approved by council back in April of 2020. And that the suspension of producing or sending statements to residents and businesses with overdue accounts at a $5 statement fee resume as of September 10th. The second fold of this report is the fact that staff is looking for direction from council in regards to the payment of rent for municipally owned buildings in our community. Oh my God, I'm sorry. So a little bit of history, a little bit of background. Back in April of 2020, council did approve a COVID-19 financial relief measures for residents of the municipality that included waiving of penalties and interest on both tax arrears as well as water and wastewater arrears, waiving NSF fees, and also recommending the suspension of producing statements. And that included a $5 statement fee for the residents. Now, the declaration of emergency for the municipality of North Middlesex was lifted effective July 28th. The council approved report included that the financial relief measures were to be lifted 45 days following the lifting of the state of emergency. The table outlined in the report is a breakdown for council of the benefits that the residents of North Middlesex have received in regards to these financial relief measures. In 2020, you will notice that the total benefits included or totaled $121,000, while in 2021 they totaled almost $18,000 for a total of $239,000. $400,000 of benefit to the residents. In regards to the rent for municipally owned buildings, now the report indicated that the mayor, the CEO, and the treasurer had the discretion to waive or defer rents for the municipally owned facilities upon request from the tenants. Now, to date, the only tenant that has approached the municipality are the Friends of the Carnegie Library. For your information, they have fully paid the rent fee for 2020, but they have not paid anything yet for 2021. So the outstanding amount for 2021 would be $1,400, I believe, $1,600. So the direction, so what we are looking from council tonight is direction in regards to, are we waiving the rent that is currently outstanding, which is equal to $1,600, and collecting what would simply remain for the year, or how council would like us to approach the outstanding rent for the Friends of the Carnegie Library?
Go ahead.
Thing is, with the COVID, they couldn't raise any funds at all because they had nothing going on. So, yeah, that's kind of a tough one.
That's correct. And that's exactly why we are looking at council to direct us in regards to whether we are waiving fees for the first part of the year, or for the whole year, or what council would like us to do in this situation.
So in fairness, there are three facilities that are much the same, right? We have the Old Town Hall, Nels Craig. The Leisure Club, sorry, thank you. The Leisure Club and the Carnegie. So, I mean, in fairness, it has to be painted in the same brush.
The other two groups, their annual rent is $1, and they pay for the water, wastewater, or the utilities. But the Carnegie, the Friends of the Carnegie Library, they do have a $200 per month rent for the facilities.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Could you explain that to me, please? Clarify that. Are you saying that the Leisure Club and the Friends of the Old Town Hall only pay $1 a year rent?
Correct.
And the Carnegie is $200 a month?
Correct.
Well, if we're
According
painting
to
with
the
the same
lease
brush, I think we have
agreements.
to get another brush.
Well, we sat here and approved the contracts.
Well, then we need to look at the other
Well,
contracts.
I'm just saying, we sat here and approved all those contracts.
Yeah, I know we did, but
Through your worship, I believe the Carnegie Library, we supplement their utility, do we not? Through that $200?
I am not sure. I can research that. Yes, absolutely.
I'm pretty sure that's what the takeoff was, but we can look into that. We can certainly come back with the special benefit to these three groups in a different report. But what's before you is mainly the fees and penalties component of how we lifted our emergency order when that comes back.
Okay, so does council wish at this time to set those three aside until the next meeting and deal with that? But it is for the rest of this report that we need to decide.
I think I'd also like to have included that report, the length of the lease to the other two entities that are paying a lower amount. Is there a duration of this lease?
Yes.
Yes, they would all have terms.
Okay, I'd like to know what the length of those leases is as well.
Okay. All right, so let's focus then on the other part of this report and questions from council on that. Deputy Mayor Cornelison.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Estelle, my question for you is that the revenue lost to the municipality for the penalties and interest rates, was any of that covered by the COVID relief?
It can be covered now. I apologize. I don't know how we are utilizing the COVID relief funds, but they can be, absolutely.
I believe we received some relief, did we not?
Through your worship, we've actually received 2 stimulus packages as per every other municipality. We were given, there are general direction from the province on where to put that money. And for the most part, it's guidelines associated with the glass at the front, PPE, changes in procedurals and bylaws. We've put some of that in towards it because we've had to go to electronic, obviously. So we can determine the balance. Although this is an indication of what money is owed to us, it is something that we had put in place methodically in the past. So it's not like we're depending on this coming in per se. The other thing I'd also like to mention, Estelle, if you wouldn't mind identifying any other Middlesex County lower tier municipalities.
Absolutely. I have contacted all of the other local municipalities within the county of Middlesex, and they have all lifted their financial relief measures.
Okay, that makes sense. I was just had one that has some clarity whether this was an actual revenue loss or if there's some compensation with the COVID relief funds. Thank you.
Through your worship, penalties are not generally assumed to be revenue, similar to traffic tickets, although one would say the OPP and the police force do depend on that, but it is a tricky balance per se.
Careful where you're treading there. Okay, other questions?
Okay, so we're talking about 2020, 2021 wastewater penalty. So is that people that couldn't pay their?
No.
How does that work? I'm really not clear on that, property tax and stuff, like for both.
So the report that the previous treasurer brought to council back in April of 2020 included asking council for permission to not charge any penalties and interest for accounts that were in arrears. And so for the period of May 1st up until now, we have not charged any penalties and interest for the outstanding amounts.
Which total this amount?
Correct.
Ooh.
Okay,
Okay, thank you. I'm clear now.
so we're looking for relief to lift this. And as you said, the others in the county have done this.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for Estelle? No other questions?
Through your worship, just to throw another item for discussion, we'd also like some direction on notice period and how you would like us to inform the general public of when and if the penalties and fees go back on.
Okay, so we have a recommended motion that council receive staff report with the lifting of the temporary amendments to municipal fees and bylaws, and that temporary amendments and the bylaws not be lifted effective September 10th. Councillor Moyer, you're making that that motion? Is there a seconder? Councillor Keogh, in favor? Okay. So now the other part of that you're looking for.
So through your worship, the report mimics the lifting of our emergency order, which was a 45-day period. Unfortunately, because of the cycle of our council meetings, putting out a newsletter or a notice in the mail might be really hard. So I think if we keep the September date, it's social media, any sign that we have, outreach to the newsletter that people actually are enrolled with right now to get the message out there.
Is that sufficient? I mean, how's council feel? Is that sufficient?
I think
I'd like, I want to, that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, I like your idea and I understand the whole thing. I prefer that if it was incorporated with, say, the tax bill or a water bill, but I understand that won't be mailed out within the next, what is it, September 20th we're looking at? That probably won't happen. But I think just to cover and to be as efficient our communication as possible, we should still consider doing that at the next general mail out of whichever comes first.
If I'm interpreting it correctly, sending it out anyways, even though the date would be September 10th, it's just let them know in the first mailing opportunity we have that it's also occurred, because there are people who are paying that might slide into that next.
Yes,
next
because not everyone's on social media, right?
Yeah.
And I think we need to utilize every avenue at our disposal to ensure that the public is as informed as can be. Now, whether that includes putting it in the banner and the Parkville Gazette, I don't know. I think those are
We
good
can go
ideas.
back and certainly take any means necessary. The biggest one was a specific individual mail out, although we have, 3 or 4 weeks to do that. It's just too tight to make sure everybody's gonna
understand.
get it.
I understand.
So, and we can put on the bills for the balance of the year, whether it be taxes or water wastewater. We have the ability to put text on there.
Yes.
And we can identify special items to note as well.
What is our next mail out? Is that the water bills? That would be the next mail out, right?
Unfortunately, we missed the property tax billing. It was done last.
Yes,
Yeah.
we've already got it.
Yeah.
But so the water bills would be the next mail out.
Which would be in September? At the end of September, 15th or 20th.
It just keeps coming back.
So,
It
but
just keeps
if I
coming
may
back.
interject, the calculation for penalties and interest aren't done until the first of the month. So the next one is going to be October 1st anyway, following
Okay.
September 10th. So if we do
So-
add it
so
in the
can it
mail
go-
out,
So with the water bill, if we have it for that date,
We
make it for that
can
date?
either we can put something in there, or we usually when we slide a newsletter in, they have some success, sometimes not. But having it at least on the bill, because that's what people are actually looking at and identifying as bold, highlight, underline, whatever it is. So we'll make sure that that's done at least, and we have some maneuverability to do that.
I think it's a great idea.
Okay, you don't need a motion for that. You just need a direction for that. Okay, thank you.
now do I want to stay here for the next one?
We've got that. Okay, so passing of accounts. And accounts from July 9th to August 5th in the amount of $825,171.20.
Thank you. Okay, so this is my first time presenting this report to you. You guys are more familiar with it than I am. So the report in front of you is for the receive and approve the following bills and accounts for payment in the amount of $825,171.20. This is a compilation of the bills and accounts for payment during the period of July 9th, 2021 to August 5th, 2021. Now, there are on the report, but there are listed some of the major bills that are being paid. I'm not going to read the list for you. I'm opening the floor for questions.
Questions from council? I was gonna say, come on, you got at least one question. Come on.
Well, I wanted
Deputy
some,
Mayor.
I want to see if everyone else is going first. And once again, Estelle, I'm going to direct my questions at your colleagues at the back.
Thank you.
They are aware that I'm going to ask these questions.
Absolutely.
Okay. So my first question is for infrastructure supervisor, and that is on the Beechwood Bridge and the status of that project. I noticed that over the past several months, we've been sending regular substantial payments to them. So my question for you is, what is the status of that project, and is it on budget?
The project overall, so the grants, so what we put in for grant was $2.3 million, of which we get 87% and 16% basically, give or take, we're on the hook for. The project is going to come in basically right at that 2.3 million once we release holdbacks. So this progress claim that you're approving tonight technically won't be paid until September 1st, once they actually go to 61 days of the construction lien act. It is substantial completion.
I'm
So
sorry?
from there, substantial completion.
Okay.
Which means it's published in the Daily Commercial News, everything's good. We hold, I think, 38,000 warranty holdback for a year. We go out there in a year from now, make sure everything's good, then we release that.
Great, thank you. I have one more question for you as well. I was looking at the meter pits and I saw two bills coming in from two different contractors, if you will. One was substantially lower than the other. Is that due to the nature of the work for the meter pit or what?
Yeah, correct. The one that was higher was actually a directional drill across the road.
Okay.
Because the water main had to get across, so there was a directional drill plus the cost of the meter pit installation.
Okay.
That's why it would have been one.
And that's what I thought. Thank you so much. I have one more question for our fire chief, and then I'll pass it on. Thank you. Greg, in reviewing the accounts, I noticed some expenses for the DZ license certification for our volunteer firefighters. And I noticed that we provide coverage or compensation for the medical and the inspection or the approval, if you will, which I know happens here in our municipality for the testing, I guess, of the DZ. But my question for you is, my understanding is that it may not be now, but at some point in the future, there will have to be compulsory training for a DZ license prior to being able to take that test. Is the municipality going to be responsible to cover those expenses as well?
we need people who are qualified drivers. Most of our applicants don't have their DZ license, so we provide it to them. We have been told that this is coming, that you have to have an approved training program. We're expecting that the agency that does our recruit training will also be able to provide that to us, and it'll be part of their training package.
Any idea what the cost would be? No. Okay. I thought that'd be something we'd be discussing at budget time, I'm assuming.
It's, what we've done in the past is the number of students who are part of that program, the cost of the whole program is just divided by the number of students. So if they've got 18 in the class, it's X divided by 18. If we've got 24, it's X divided by 24 from around the county.
Okay, it's just that I'm familiar with, I think it's Fifth Wheel out at Warwick there, and I believe their cost is somewhere around $10,000 per student for the DZ. We're not looking at that amount, are we? Okay, thank you so much.
I'd maybe just like to address Deputy Mayor Cornell. So that is for an AZ license at Warwick. A DZ is not a tractor trailer.
No,
To one of these driving schools, significantly less than 10,000.
Okay, well, I was told
it's not as stringent of course.
Okay, okay, it could be. I don't know.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Okay, we'll come back to the accounts. Counselor Moyer.
Again, this would be for Jonathan. There's about $36,000 for water parts. Is that for the pits and then just leaks and?
For the most part, through there, for the most part, it's meter bits in there, and we've got some backward stuff that's just supply chain stuff.
Yeah.
Meter bits, meters, we ordered a bunch of meters, express what's coming on, meters and holders as well, and then all the parts and things.
Yeah, okay.
And then those programs that we were discussing, they're starting to consume a lot more parts too, as they go through big steam valves.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Need a motion for the accounts. Counselor McClinchy, Counselor Nickel, all in favor? Carried. Thanks, Estelle. All right. Committee reports. Lake Huron primary water. Nothing, yeah. That's been delayed again. ABCA, anything you want to add? Go
Yes,
ahead.
just a couple of things, Mayor Rapp, if I may. I think it may be of interest to some members of council that Kate Monk, after 30 years of service with the South of Bayfield, is changing her role. She's remaining, with the organization. However, Nathan Schuler will be taking on her responsibilities, and Kate will be providing mentorship and training for him for the next period of time. Okay. In addition to that, if you saw the attachments to the agenda there for the South of Bayfield, you'll notice that there's a 5-year forecast. My understanding is that some of that forecast is dependent on mandated services and the agreements with municipality under the memorandum of understanding. So I think they base it on historic rates, but they don't know what the future holds at this time.
They're aggressive increases.
I'm sorry?
They are very aggressive increases.
Oh, yes.
Man, oh man.
Yes.
They are large
They are.
increases that they're proposing. Any questions for Deputy Mayor? Okay, Blue Water Recycling, EDAC, nothing there. The local school, Recreation Committee, Wastewater Policy, and the Fire Committee. Anything from the Fire Committee?
Sorry, we do, Mayor Rob. Would you like me to read it, Jackie? This recommendation that I'd like to bring before council that we had at our last fire meeting in order to shorten up in order to expedite the building of the new fire hall. We're asking council to, I guess how would I word that? We're asking council's favor to recommend the demolition of the original fire hall in order to speed this process up
Okay.
before winter.
Okay. Questions on that? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. My understanding is that the fire department will be utilizing the works building here in Park Hill. So my question is, perhaps I guess for Jonathan, is where will the works department go?
Through your worship, we're doing some juggling around. Some of it will be going to Lurie. Some of it will be staying in Park Hill through third-party contacts, which we're still in the midst of negotiating and finalizing. So I would hold to bring an update to that effect, but we do have backup in terms of this shuffle. So we've arranged that, and Brad and Greg are in communication about that execution. Thank you.
Other comments, questions?
Just,
Yes.
how long would it take to demolish that? Day?
It only took a few weeks to take down those 3 buildings for the co-op. So I don't imagine it's going to take anything longer. We are asking for the site preparation to be done as well, though. So there's some remnants from the other demolition that needs to be taken out, and have the site ready to go for when the building contract is awarded.
Other comments, questions?
Just one more if I may. Greg, are there any pieces of equipment or things that you need to take out before the demolition? I'm assuming that there's some stuff there you want to keep.
Yes, we're working on that, and we'll get storage bins put in behind the workshop. Equipment that we're going to be able to move to the new, equipment that we need to be able to have access to, but maybe not immediate. And then some items that they can go in there. And then there's stuff we'll also get rid of that won't make the move.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Just a comment I'll make, that I'm glad to see that recommendation from the committee, because otherwise it would be pretty tight to get foundations in and stuff this fall. So, and that's important to do it. So I think it's a great recommendation. Any other comments? If not, we have a recommendation in front of us. Moved by Councillor Nickel and seconded by Councillor McClinchy. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Aqua Advisory?
Nothing to date.
Okay, correspondence, Enbridge Gas, notice to customers of rate increase. Okay. Sorry, did I say that out loud? County of Middlesex, the Warden's Charity Golf Tournament, for anyone wishing, give your name to Jackie. Go ahead, Adrian.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Again, I'm pleased to announce that Councillor Hemming and Councillor Keel, as well as myself, will be attending that. And I will defend North Middlesex's honor with our best efforts.
My team is, we're gonna lose. I go with 3 other guys that are gonna lose. Kurt, yeah, we're putting the band back together. Okay, so if anybody, to let Jackie know. Middlesex London Health Unit, Board of Health monthly meeting. Any questions on that?
Is this, each member of council paying their own way, or is it funded through municipality?
No. I know we get charged, the county charges. You want on the team? Because there's, I see. No. Okay, all right, so that's all the correspondence. Other and urgent business, planning summary update. Jonathan Graham, and who's going to come up?
Through your worship, I'd actually asked Jonathan Lampman and Brandon to come up.
Okay.
Brandon also has an item to speak towards.
By all means.
So through your worship, members of council, this is just a brief memo. There's no recommendation to it. It just relates to a discussion that we had last week in terms of, or last council, my apologies, in terms of the demands on the municipality in terms of development and growth. So I've provided you some relative plan information here that's related to the draft plans, the 33M plans, and then some concept plans. I'll open the floor up to some to the group as soon as I do some math for you. The calculation of 800 units plus or minus, these are the active files that the municipality is engaged with the development community, whether that be the engineers or the applicants themselves. Some of them are very early in terms of the pre-consultation stage. Some of them are going through the back end motions of subdivision agreements. Westwood Phase 2 and 3 should be finalized by the end of this year. What this 800 count excludes are 3 items. It excludes Goldleaf because they're close to occupancy, and that was around 20 units. It excludes MacGyver's because that file unfortunately has kind of died out. And it also excludes a recent submission this morning for 30 extra units north of Union and Station Street in Park Hill. We just got another pre-consultation request for 30 units for a planned subdivision out there. So that being said, I can open up the floor to any questions that you see fit.
I have to, and because I'm looking through the report and I see here Merritt, the name Merritt, and I followed all the way across, and it seems to me that there actually has been a submission currently.
That is correct. There's actually a submission and there is a new owner tentatively, and the new owner has engaged us with a new submission.
Well, that is exciting news.
Yeah, we're under the second revision of engineering and design right now.
Well,
We should have
after all
comments
the-
back to them in the next couple of weeks.
Well, after all these years, to see progress on that particular file is really exciting. Thank you.
The one thing I did forget to mention, the breakdown is about 450 units in Park Hill, plus or minus, and about 360 units in Elsie Craig, plus or minus.
Other questions from council or comments from council? At this time, they are digging on Queen Street North in Elsa Craig. They're hooking up the sewers, so it's right in the middle of the road. So they've had to close the road and take that.
I just thought, I do have one more question if I may.
Go ahead.
And that is with the Westwood Estates. I see that there's 7 homes currently under construction. I haven't seen any more basements dug in. And yet I think there's 35 lots there, if I remember correctly.
33 through the mayor, 33 lots total.
Yes.
8 lots have building permit issued.
Okay.
We are at a point where we need to issue an insurance certificate. So if you notice, they put down their base course of asphalt yesterday.
Yes.
All the lights are in, powered, utilities are in. So basically, the applicant's gonna have their engineer make an application to us and say, we want some money back, we're ready to roll. At that point, we basically, in our subdivision agreement, have 8 model homes. That's what you're seeing being built.
Okay.
Once we get to this next point where we go and we check everything, make sure all the valves, catch basins, everything's good, the rest of the lots open up.
Okay.
So that is coming. We've been talking with the developer, talking with the engineer. It'll be in the next few weeks.
Thank you.
And that would be to release all of those 33 lots.
The balance of the 33
The balance of
worship
the
will
33?
be released, or they will be opened for the builders or the residents or the owner to submit a building permit application.
Gotcha.
A lot of builders intertwine model homes for ultimate sale at the back end because they know that gets people in. They get to see what the wares of their buildings look like, and then they leverage them over to somebody else. So they coincide well.
There's indication that just because of lumber and stuff like that, that 1 or 2 of the builders are just gonna come in, build 6, and then put them to real estate. That's kind of what they're saying. They don't want to deal with that. They're just gonna build them as they take them. So you're gonna see a lot of movement once those building permits start getting issued.
That's good news. Good news.
So with all these proposed developments, for all these proposed developments, so Westwood, we know that. What about Elks Craig? How, are they anywhere? Where are we on all this kind of stuff then? I know we've got Westwood, but what about Elks Craig and? the other?
Through your worship, the Excel spreadsheet kind of details the process in which they're at. But to answer your question with Elsie Craig, a lion's share, most of it is with the Sauble Bluffs, which they just recently went through their voluntary public consultation period. And then in September 1st, we will be doing the formal provincial policy statement public consultation period. So that'll be something that'll be coming up relatively quickly. And then we'll roll into draft plan creation, engineering design. It does take some time. These files take years to come through the process. Westwood was 2 years, 3 years. And I will go back to my previous employment before I got here at the City of London. 3 was very aggressive. 5 was the standard. So they're getting some attention here. We're getting some processes nipped in the butt so that we can go through them faster. So we're at least skimmed off 2 to 3 years on some of these files by them coming out here.
Okay, I just thought, okay, a lot of numbers here, but where's the action? Like, I guess it's all, you know.
No, that's a legitimate question. I think I was at that point, Doreen, I was at that point as well at one point. I said, we've run out of land, but there isn't a damn basement
I know,
being built.
that's what I'm saying.
And so we are getting past that now, and you're seeing it at both ends of it now. You're seeing the building happening. And once it starts, it carries on.
Okay, well, it just.
Yeah, no, it's
reassuring.
yep.
I would ask you to ask me that question in 3 years to tell me what you would say.
Well, hopefully less than 3 years.
Hopefully, yeah.
We do know that the developer at Elsa Craig is going to, as soon as he can, he's not holding back, he's pushing forward. So that's the good thing. So other questions for this? I mean, it is a receive and file, but it's just to let everybody know what's out there. Okay, so we'll go on to the next other business.
So, Mayor Ropp and members of council, we received on, I believe it was Monday this week, from the Park Hill Play School that they will cease their operations at the end of this month. They will no longer exist due to financial constraints. I think it ended up the lack of people putting their kids in the play school. So they will be vacating our premise and we will no longer have a lease agreement with them. I'm currently evaluating whether to put the YMCA child programming there, their before and after school, which is one of their more successful programs. The play school has agreed that if the YMCA moves into that space, they will donate all the toys, all of that stuff to the YMCA for their before and after school program. So that's currently under consideration by staff.
All right, so amongst that, because we're into daycare, is there a report, an update on Park Hill daycare for council?
Through your worship, members of council, I believe it's just left with some checks and balances in the building department. And that sign off will be coming relatively soon.
Okay, that's, and that brings us to, like, we have an Elsa Craig Play School as well. And I'm wondering too, like you said, the changes and everything, it would be nice if, I don't know if you've talked with them or reached out to them on their plans for the future as well.
So currently Elsa Craig is still, I believe, looking for a teacher for their play school. They've had Jillian Hagman there for quite some time.
Yeah.
She actually got accepted into teachers college and she's going to pursue a career as a teacher. So currently they're still looking for someone. Now that group is, they've had a substantial number of kids every year and it's never seemed to be in trouble. Whereas our Park Hill Play School, even a few years ago, there were signs there that they weren't sure. They wanted to sign a 1-year lease, whereas Elsa Craig's had a very strong group of residents who have backed them, who have kind of pushed things forward, and they've always seemed to have that support in place where they haven't really had any hiccups.
Right.
So I will reach out to them again to see where they're at in their process for the teaching. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm thinking that they're going to continue on operations as usual.
Okay, thanks. Any questions from council? Other questions or comments to Brandon on that? This is more of an FYI, that's what's happening again, so. Okay, thanks, Brandon. I don't see any other questions. Thank you. Any other business? Do you have any other business? Council, anything under other business?
That's under communication.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. All right, so deferred items are in front of you. The dog park report is for September, I believe, correct? Okay, thank you. Communications, including county council.
Thank you, Mayor Ropp. County council was somewhat abbreviated yesterday with the number of items being deferred. However, we had a very detailed and stimulating presentation from Mark Brown, the county forestry officer, about the gypsy moth and the impact it's having. It was very informative. He discussed a great deal about how the trees can be defoliated. However, they do recover for the most part. He again reiterated, as he has in the past, that the gypsy moth population is cyclical in nature, that it comes and it escalates and then it decreases within over an 8-year period of time. So he feels that it has already decreased somewhat this year and will probably continue to retract over the next few years until it has another explosion. He did discuss different methodologies of controlling them. Interestingly enough, aerial spraying was not his preferred methodology, I don't believe, Mayor Roth, due to the impact it would have on other insects as well and other wildlife in general, because it wouldn't just target the gypsy moth, it target all flying insects and all moths as well. And some of them are beneficial to our eco environment. So overall, the report was fairly positive. He did show us a number of pictures, and are we going to be able to have that attached to one of our reports?
So a question, Jackie, have you received that report? Okay, the county clerk is going to send that through so we can put it for correspondence, that report, so that everybody could, because we want to get it to as many people as we can.
Yeah.
And so that's the plan.
And my explanation will not be anywhere near as thorough as his report, because it's very detailed and it's almost scientific in nature. And so I'm trying to, give you some understanding of this presentation, but certainly the photographs that he provided were also extremely informative, how the change in the tree from when it was defoliated in, say, early June to its recovery in July, and how the tree has bounced back. So that was really interesting, because I know the number of our residents are very concerned about the demise of their trees. And he said there may be some trees that will eventually die, but for the most part, they won't. Anyway, it's a very interesting report, and look forward to it being attached to our next agenda. I have nothing else. I don't know if you do, Mayor Rob.
No, I think that was the main thing that would affect us here. So we have another item on this.
Through your worship, members of council, staff wanted to provide you with our submission for AMO delegations in 2021. One being for the infrastructure or seeking grants or monies pertaining to the wastewater treatment plant, which we're going to be meeting with the Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Infrastructure on Monday to discuss our 15-minute elevator pitch. So a PowerPoint presentation has been put together, and we'll share that with you in future and give you a general synopsis of how the conversation went. Through that delegation, we've also retained Watson and Associates to help assist us in an economic briefing of the undertaking. And the rationale to that was this would be the third time on the same topic that we've gone to the ministry with little to no direction coming back. So we're going to change tactics, and we're going to focus on job creation, tax stimulation, and see if that will pry a good conversation with the Ministry of Infrastructure. The second item that we are requested a delegation for was with the Ministry of Environment, and unfortunately, we were not successful in being awarded a delegation, and that was to consider a P3 solution with the balance of the lagoon lands. The best way I can put this is that when we deposited our environmental assessment, a company came out of the woodwork, Wessex. You have their portfolio there, or some of the stuff that they do. But generally what had happened is that they approached us, and to sum it up, a liability that we consider our sludge and our lagoons, they consider an asset for treatment of NASM's program, which is a land application for farmers to deal with the sludge. Ultimately, they would be, if agreeable, if we ever got to a position that this could be something that the municipality would consider, they would come to do a presentation, which I think is warranted in this instance because they don't have a lot of vacant lagoons. There are a lot of semi-mechanical lagoons out there, and John, speak up if you wish, that they can take this from scratch and figure out what would come out of it. The benefit to a consideration like this is a financial revenue stream that the municipality would get a certain percent off of every ton of product produced. Right now, the product is free for the farmers. It is charged to the municipality, and it's something that every municipality has to deal with is sludge creation in terms of their treatment plants. So these things don't go away. Rather, people just put their heads in the sand and say it's not in my backyard. So we'd like to consider, alternative sources of funding because we are all aware of the financial wherewithal that we have with lagoons that we're going to have to address in the near future. So John, feel free.
It was staff that solicited Wessex, brought Wessex in. It wasn't Wessex coming down. So we solicited them because we were looking at the sludge. Now, this is an idea and it's a concept that we have and we've discussed with Wessex. We have somewhat tabled this with the Ministry of Environment and they're not necessarily thrilled with the idea. So the single largest hurdle that we will face at this is to progress, and council wants to progress this way, is will the Ministry of Environment allow us to do? On paper, it makes sense. In our minds, in Wessex mind, it's a good alternative to a wastewater treatment plant. It makes sense, but it's not necessarily going to make sense to the Ministry of Environment. So basically what John is, and what we're asking is, do you guys want Wessex to come in and kind of lay the cards on the table and show you what they're thinking? And then we bring them in, they'll delegate, they'll explain to you how they see this going forward and how it works out. And then from there, we would have to approach the ministry with it again and see where it lands.
Okay, so a couple of things I'd add to that just before I go to you, Gord. Jonathan and I went to Sarnia where they are doing this because the first things that come up is, smell, odor, and traffic, right? That's the first things that come up is odor and traffic. So we actually were walking along the edge of the lagoon while they were doing it. And honestly, the process smelled more like wet dirt. What it's like at the bog, right at the lagoon, it smelled like the bog. I mean, I would say that was the best description. But those were the things. The other thing I asked them is, are they piling this stuff up? We're seeing that, and they don't. They incorporate right into the ground. It's incorporated right in as the trucks go in and they have the tanks put them in. So having said that, that's all I know about it. We did go see it. But the question here today is, do we want to hear from them? So Councilor Moyer, you had your hand up.
Yeah. There is a product that some fellows in our area are using now. Is that similar?
Through the mayor, completely different. Like Mayor was just saying, so they drill it into the ground. So when you see the tanks with the hoses, that kind of product, not the one with like the beater and the dust. No, very, very much different than that. But I mean, they can come in and explain exactly, show you the operations and all that. Council as a whole has to have comfort with what this is, obviously.
Yeah. Other questions?
So these guys are making a living on doing this outside of.
This product, I believe, is actually from the Netherlands or sorry.
Different thing. So yes. So
how do you gonna, like, they come in, I would like to hear them, but how are they gonna prove themselves to the MOE?
So remember when we did the sonar
just a minute.
sludge investigation as part of the presentation for the wastewater treatment? And they were telling us that's anywhere from $250 to $1,000 a cubic meter, and that we had roughly 50,000 cubic meters. So, the millions and millions of dollars it would cost us to get rid of that. We as a municipality pay that to the companies like Wessex. Wessex not the only company, but companies like Wessex. Then Wessex gives it to the farmer for free. So their revenue source is the municipalities. So they collect this from municipalities all throughout Ontario.
Okay.
That is, we as a municipality are the revenue source for them. What their intention is to use our lagoons as transfer, storage, build up NASM plans basically throughout the area and then apply it. That's in a very quick nutshell. That is the idea.
Councillor Keel, you had your hand up?
I was just going to say, it doesn't cost us anything to have a listen to it. So there are certain segment of people in the agriculture industry that do have, their thoughts about it, but as just being responsible, we should hear all avenues.
Okay.
That's what we were trying to do with the Ministry of Environment, is put, lack of a better term, put either the Ministry of Environment in the box or Infrastructure Ontario and say, we're trying to find creative solutions. And the government is telling us to find P3 solutions, so public-private partnerships. But in the background, we're having administrative difficulties with the powers that be of authority, the Ministry of Environment saying, no, we don't want this. So there's a little bit of a cause and effect here that we were trying to say we're trying to do our financial due diligence and at least considering all options. And that's why we submitted for the second delegation.
I'm with you. It doesn't cost.
Depending on exactly how they roll it out. I mean, in their 10 points that they gave us for high level discussion, they would take over the weekends. And they would operate them. And they would operate them as basically a NASM transfer station. With ministry approval, we would send our sludge and our waste to those lagoons as a town. And they would perpetually remove it. Right. Like I said, on paper and in our heads, it makes sense. We just got to get through the red tape.
We don't know that would eliminate a wastewater treatment plant.
To that point,
but
with the growth that we're seeing, and eventually those lagoons, they got a limited capacity, right? It's not an infinite capacity. But in discussing this with Wessex, and we've been in discussions with Wessex staff, have been in discussions with Wessex for a while. They're thinking about how they can continually take the town's waste, move it quick enough just to keep the cycle moving. And they're working on that. They were supposed to be here tonight to talk to you, but they're actually developing and putting numbers and so on and so forth. And they want to come, I think, mid-September. It's kind of what they're.
Yeah, it doesn't seem they weren't quite ready to come.
We're not quite ready to.
Yeah.
That honestly, Councillor Moore, that goes right back to the financial due diligence of considering every option, right?
Yeah.
Like it's we have to consider the stuff outside the box. If you look at other programs, Cambridge has done something similar. What's the one that did the green bin program? Aqua did. I think it might have been Cambridge. It might have been Guelph, but you know that 10 years ago seemed crazy to people. Now it's something that they create revenue off of, right? So this could have lasting impacts for us that could help us. But that's, I think, back to everybody's point, it doesn't hurt to hear them out.
Yeah. So council's in favor, I get a council in favor of at least hearing from them. Okay, sounds good. All right, sounds good. Anything else in our communications? If not, reading of the bylaws.
Bylaw 68 is to authorize the alternative voting method for the 2022 elections. Bylaw 69 is to enter into an agreement with IntelliVote Systems. Bylaw 70 is ZBA temporary use. Bylaw 71 is a ZBA temporary use for Bullock Road. Bylaw 72 is a zoning bylaw amendment for 192, 194 Park Hill Main Street, New Fire Hall. Bylaw 73 is to authorize the transfer payment agreement, ICIP, for renovations to the Public Works Garage on Creamery Road. Allows that to enter into that agreement for that project. And bylaw 74 is your confirming. First and second on all bylaws.
Councilor McClinchy, Councilor Hemming, all in favor? Carried.
And third and final.
Third and final, Councilor Moyer, Council Nickel, all in favor? Carried. Move to adjourn. I thought I expect your hand to stay up. Sorry, Doreen. Move to adjourn. Councilor McClinchy, Councilor